This is a production of SDPB.
Coming up on Game Time, the field is set for the girls' state basketball tournament. Nate and I will take you on a deep dive to all the players, teams, and storylines to follow for the upcoming tournaments. All coming up next on Game Time.
Game Time is supported by the South Dakota Career and Technical Student Organization Center. Through CTSOs, South Dakota students can learn professional development, leadership, and industry-specific skills, helping students learn, lead, and succeed.
All right, it's a big week here for Game Time. It is the preview for all three girls' state basketball tournaments. All of them are going to be taking place on SDPB Live. I'm Nate Weck, joined as always by Jason Andera. Man, just seems like it wasn't that long ago. We're talking about some of the holiday classics and stuff like that, and here we are. We're right on the doorstep of state tournament time.
Previews and getting ready for the big middle of the season or whatever. But here we are, right at the end. And these teams, we've got a lot of good teams, a lot of great competitions, and we're going to touch on as much as we possibly can here in the next 30 minutes.
All right, and then next week we're going to talk about like those boys brackets as far as the state tournament previews for those. But before we do get into the girls brackets for this week, we do want to talk real quickly on some of the games that took place in regional play this past week on the boys side.
We don't want to totally skim over the boys regions and the SODAC 16, so a couple of really stood out to me, especially in Region 2B. The region qualifiers in 2B were decided by a total of 4 points between the two games. And this is that bracket we've been talking about for weeks, Nate, where you had DeSmet and you had Castlewood and Wessington Springs and even Dubrook. And DeSmet barely got by. They were losing in the second half of this game and made a big push.
Yeah, and we talked about it, how in the playoffs you can't take any days off because you just don't know what's going to happen. I think we all sometimes get so complacent when we think about how good and how hot some of these teams are throughout the year. And DeSmet barely escaped getting to the SODAC 16. So it was one of those moments where it's just proof that you got to come ready to play every single week. But give credit to Dubrook too, because it's not that DeSmet necessarily played bad. Dubrook was just, we're gonna be a tough out. We're gonna go down. If we're gonna go down, we're gonna go down with our best fight, and we're gonna leave it all on the court, and that's what they did.
Yeah, Dubrook had that 15-point lead at point in that game, but DeSmet's huge third quarter vaults them into the next round. And then we had Castlewood take on Wessington Springs in that exact same region. Another barn burner.
Yeah, and both these teams were at the state tournament a year ago in Aberdeen. So
they played in the semis of the state tournament last year. Yeah.
So the fact that one of these teams was going to get eliminated, it is a little bit of a heartbreak for both of them. But yeah, you talk about Castlewood as the defending champs, and they just found a way.
Yeah, Camden Kessler gave Castlewood the lead with 21.8 seconds left. Wessington Springs ended up with a good look at a shot to win it, but couldn't get it done. Trevor Everson came up with a huge block for Castlewood, and then they hung on at the end of that game. Congrats to Castlewood, who made it to the SODAC. These are teams that just punched their ticket to the SODAC 16. Another big region moment, we had Freeman. They had David Walter, their sophomore, put up 30 points to get past Parkson, another team that feels like a state contender who didn't even make it to the SODAC 16.
Yeah, then that's, we talked about this region with, Viborg, Hurley, and Parkston, and Freeman, that it's just too bad that one of these teams is going to be left kind of at the altar, so to speak. Parkston had the home game. Talking to a few people at state wrestling about that matchup, they're like, man, I don't like this matchup for Parkston. And it's true. I mean, Freeman's an incredibly athletic team, and, give credit to Freeman for being able to go on the road in that one and pick up a win against Parkston.
Yeah, tough win. So that set up the SODAC 16 field, most of those games on Tuesday night. And the double A's were decided last Friday, so we have that full field to look at.
So what do you like, I guess, Jandy, real quick out of that double-A boys? I mean, obviously you've got your Sioux Falls Lincoln. You've got people that are going to be talking about the Derek Roby thing, as this is his, he's only got 3 games left of his coaching career. So what are some things, that go beyond that you're looking at when it comes to double-A this year?
Yeah, we'll get much deeper into this next week, by the way, but this field is so balanced. Double-A has been like that all year. Even Lincoln has been tested a few times. So don't be surprised. Just don't be shocked if anything happens in this field. And like I said, next week we'll give you a deep dive on that.
All right, and then Tuesday night was the SODAC 16 for Class A. Here's how things shook out.
Yeah, in Class A, most of the top-seeded teams got it done, but there were a couple of upsets, and it started with St. Thomas More taking on Lennox in winner. That one went to overtime. St. Thomas More had the lead most of the night. Lennox came back, found a way to force overtime, but it was St. Thomas More, the 10 seed, beating the 7 seed, and then the 9 seed, Cheyenne Eagle Butte, got the win over Makpialuta to make it so that only the girls' Makpialuta team would make it to state, not the boys. And then we have to say Marvin Richard III of Pine Ridge and his team got defeated by Groton. Groton put an excellent game, but a special farewell to Marvin Richard III, who played his final high school game. Sioux Falls Christian comes in as your number 1 seed. They take on a really tough St. Thomas More game to start things out, but this field is absolutely loaded. Can't wait to see how this one pans out.
Also on Tuesday night was the SODAC 16 for the Class B boys. Makes it fun when both Class A and Class B are the same night for the SODAC 16 round. But here's how Class B boys shook out, and here's who's going to state.
A lot of the same things as Class A. The higher seeded teams got it done for the most part, but when it came to that 7-10 matchup again, Lyman found their way into the state tournament. Big win for them. And Dupree had Sully Buttes until the end. Sully Buttes found a way to get that thing done, so the 8th seed gets in, which sets up a really cool state tournament with a lot of teams. With nobody's coming into this thing undefeated or unbeatable, that's for sure. As we have Vibrant Hurley coming in as the number 1 seed, but we saw them lose a couple games down the stretch. They got a tough Lyman team right out of the way. And the rest of these matchups, I could see this thing going a million different ways. And the seedings don't mean much when it comes to the State B tournament. We'll dig into that next week.
All right, so now jumping to the girls' side, we've got 3 tournaments taking place. AA girls are going to be at the Summit Arena out in Rapid City. We got the A girls that are at the Civic Arena in Watertown. And then you got the B girls at First Bank and Trust Arena. First state tournament since the Frost Arena revamp in Brookings, which will be a really big deal to just kind of see what that atmosphere is like for a high school tournament. But as far as the channels to be concerned with, the AA's is going to be on 1 for SDPB 1 TV. You're going to have the A girls is going to be on SDPB 3, and then the B girls is going to be on SDPB 2. All of them available as well to watch at sdpb.org/basketball. And of course, YouTube is probably going to be one of the easiest spots to catch the state tournaments. We're going to have all of the sessions and things like that available for free on YouTube, which will make it easy for the smart TV users that we'll have.
Oh, it's the best when you can load up as many screens as possible and watch 3 games at once. But even gets better each and every day. And now it's time to see who's going to get it done in these final 8 teams in each of these classes.
And then one more quick note about the state tournaments this year. They're all starting at 11 a.m.
Right.
Local time. So you're a little bit different. We're used to the state basketball tournaments, these sessions starting at noon and then starting at 6 local time. Well, now it's all kind of bumped up that extra hour. So your afternoon session will start at 11 a.m. local time, and then that evening session for all 3 days will start at 5 p.m. Central Time locally as well. All right, so Class AA girls. All right, we've talked about your Brandon Valleys. We've talked about O'Gorman this year. But Brandon Valley coming out the gate, they're the top seed. They're going to take on a T area team. T area wasn't that long ago. They were Class A, and now they find themselves at the AA tournament.
Exactly. A nice win for them in the SODAC 16, getting over Harrisburg for the 2nd time this year. But Brandon Valley, this is a historically good team. This is one of the best squads they've had. They're undefeated on the season. Over the last 4 years, they have had the best stretch of a 4-year win total that they've ever had at Brandon Valley. And this is the only undefeated season that they've had in their 52 years of girls basketball at the school. So Mike Zur has a special group, and it's led by a special player, Olivia Paget, who's averaging over 25 points per game. She's shooting 444 from three. That gets underlooked because she doesn't shoot a ton of threes. She'll make one or two a game, but she is very efficient from beyond that line. And Ava Kellenberger, who gets overshadowed sometimes by Olivia Paget, has had a tremendous career with Brandon Valley, another great support player. And then they've got one of the few true post players in the state in Gracie Salter. So a very complete team for Brandon Valley.
And then you got T area, right? Okay, so T area, a little bit more of a balanced,
Yes.
everybody across the board kind of contributes for that team. 6 players are averaging 19 to 29 minutes per
Yeah.
game, that kind of thing.
They
so
rotate a lot.
They do a lot of rotation. They try to keep the legs fresh out there and stuff like that. So a very, for one, you could say it's kind of like a 3-headed giant. And I know there's supporting cast with Brandon Valley and stuff like that too. But with T area, it's going to be everybody contributing, a little bit of a way.
It's
here and there.
everybody contributing on a different night. It's a different scorer every night. They all facilitate. They all can play defense. A good team effort for T to get here, but a really tough draw for them.
All right, and then the second game of that quarterfinal that I'm actually really looking forward to is you got Adam Dannenbring, his Stevens squad. Should have a good crowd out. The tournament's out in Rapids, so there should be a good crowd of Stevens supporters that are going to be at that game. It's that 4-5 matchup. I always love those, and then it's Peyton Burkhart making her state tournament debut as a head coach. Fell just short a year ago, going up against it. So you got Aberdeen Central, Rapid City, Stevens in that 4-5 matchup. In the quarters.
And all year these are kind of those teams right outside the top tier that we were trying to decide, can they be elite?
Mm-hmm.
Can they be? They're ranked teams, they're good ranked teams, but can they be elite? And they get to face each other right off in this one. I'm really looking forward to the 8th grader from Stevens, the young star, Marley Seumanatafa, who's been really their best rebounder all season long. She's gotten a ton of minutes. She's just going to get better and better. Maybe this is a moment for her to make a name on this big stage.
Yeah, you don't see it as much in AA, right? Where you see those, the 8th graders
Yeah.
contributing like this. And what is she, 4th in scoring on the team?
4th in scoring the team, leads the team in rebounds, played as a varsity player as a 7th grader last year. And so she's definitely not the team, but it'll be interesting to see what she can do on this big stage. But they've got they've got multiple college basketball players on the team. Finley Love's going to wrap up a great career. Hallie Peterson's had a good career. A lot of good multi-sport athletes on that team going against an Aberdeen Central team that really hits the boards. I mean, you look at what Lauren Burkhart and Taryn Hermanson do. They each average almost 8 rebounds per game, and they really hit the boards hard.
Maybe you just answered one of the keys for that game.
I know it is. 2 different styles. You're going to have Rapid City Stevens, who wants to get up and down, and Aberdeen Central, who wants to get into their offense.
All right. And then in the evening session here in the quarterfinals, we're going to have O'Gorman. They're the 2 seed, been a phenomenal squad all year, going up against the 7 seed in Mitchell. What do you like here?
Nobody plays at the pace that O'Gorman plays at. They are frantic. They create more turnovers than any AA team I remember. I mean, maybe the statistics will not back that up, but with my own eyes, they are one of the most fun teams to watch, get up into their press and create havoc. And the cool thing is they also shoot great from range. They've got great three-point shooters, including Ruby Moore, who's at 44% shooting the 3. Sydney Tervine, their 2 leading scorers, are both really good from long range. And they've got the supporting cast on the inside.
Yeah, so if you're Mitchell, you really got to try to defend well, especially on the perimeter. Any sort of open looks are a possible threat against you.
Exactly, and they're a young team. They play, 2 young kids in the starting lineup for Mitchell, but they rely on their senior Addie Simpson, who's had quite the career, going on to play at Augustana next year. She supplies 37% of the team's scoring. She's one of the most important players to her team in this tournament.
All right, and then we've got Washington, the 3 seed, Sioux Falls, Jefferson, the 6. That'll be the nightcap on Thursday night in the quarters. What do you like here? You got Dana Harp. It wasn't that long ago. You had the Harp twins for Washington that were winning state championships, and now you've got, Dana Harp is kind of one of those leaders now for the Warriors.
I feel like either of these 2 teams could get on a run as well, and they've got, a history. They play it every year. Some star power in this game with Brindley Altenberg on Jefferson. Jefferson has made the state tournament now every single year of their school's existence.
They have.
And, Altenberg gets a lot of credit for what she can do on the outside, but she's a really good inside player as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they match up with her. But Washington is one of the best rebounding teams in the class. Several players, 5 different players, in fact, who average 5 or more rebounds. And they've got those 2 seniors they rely on and a really good sophomore class to go with it. They're they're a tough team. They're a tough team to play against.
Well, it wasn't too many weeks ago, Washington, Brandon Valley went into overtime.
Took them OT. So when they're at their best, they can play with the top teams.
All right, well, let's move on to the Class A tournament. There's a lot of stuff to talk about from this one. Seedings and stuff like that, we're gonna, some of the seedings and the way that the points kind of worked itself out, it maybe doesn't match completely with the media rankings and things like that for this. But however it shook out, you got Hamlin as the number 1 seed coming into the state tournament this year.
Yeah, Hamlin, really dangerous team, and they looked really good, beating teams like Lennox down the stretch a couple of different times. They've played a really tough schedule and found their way to that number 1 seed. They've earned it, and they've got 2 dynamic scorers in Addie Neuendorf and Izzy Stephenson. Either one of them can lead the team. That's the nice thing. And then Addie, she averages 5 assists per game as well, so she can distribute to the entire court. She shoots great from 3, and Izzy Stephenson's been awesome to take some of that load off of her shoulders. They've been both averaging over 16 points per game.
Yeah, and no doubt was I trying to say that somebody else is more deserving of the
No,
number 1 seed. Hamlin, a very polished team, and you want the best teams in the state here on this stage, and I think we got that with Class A girls. They're going to take on a Lakota Tech team, the 8 seed. Lakota Tech, one of the 2 teams that it's going to be in this tournament from the Pine Ridge Reservation. Machpealuta, Lakota Tech, they're not separated by much more than about 6 or 7 miles. So there's going to be, I could see there being a decent amount of fan support with 2 schools there. But you got Lakota Tech. They've been to quite a few state tournaments here the last few years. They're a team that's well coached. They know how to play basketball. What do you like with Lakota Tech?
Yeah, you said it. Well coached. Laura Big Crow's done an awesome job with a very young group. Most of her scorers are underclassmen, and Amelia Shangru, Rosie Shangru, she goes by both, has been absolutely on the map this season with 21 points per game and almost 5 assists per game. So they have the potential, and they've played Machpealuta a couple times. They've played some really tough competition. They're not going to be scared by playing the number 1 seed on Thursday in Waterloo.
And then you got Lizzie Robinson, also a very good contributor for that Lakota Tech team as well. The 4-5 matchup, we've talked a lot about Lennox, that 5 seed. But, I feel like maybe we haven't talked as much this year about Sioux Valley, the Cossacks, and what they can bring to the table. They shoot, we talked about, some of the good 3-point shooting we see in AA. The Cossacks are a pretty darn good 3-point shooting team as well.
Yeah, you got Talia Vincent, who doesn't, that's her specialty. She sits behind the 3-point line, and she'll make, at a high clip of shots from out there. But Kaylee Craddock can shoot that shot. They've got plenty of players who can fill it up across the team. They take a lot of threes as well. They do a lot of fast breaking, quick shots, quick threes, and they shoot about 30 3-pointers a game. I didn't look through all the stats, but that's the most I've seen by any one team.
Yeah, that's a lot. And then you got Lennox, you got Addie Peters. Okay, well, she's like
Speaking of 3-point shooting,
she's one of the best 3-point shooters in the state as well. So this could be a real fun game where you see just a lot of spectacular shooting.
It really is. And Lennox, again, they've tested themselves. This promises to be one of the best games of the first day of any of the 3 classes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you got Machpealuta. They got seeded as the number 2 seed, and they're going to take on number 7 West Central in the opening round. We'll get into it maybe a little bit deeper here too, but first impressions of Machpealuta and just their, came a second shy a year ago of winning a state championship. I feel like they're better this year. What do you like about the Machpealuta team?
I think we agree. They are better this year. They feel the most focused in this group, that's been huge. As we've seen the evolvement of this program over the last several years, where they had some good seasons and then didn't play at their best in the state tournament. Last year they said, yeah, we can be at our best on the big stage. And this year, they play fast as anybody in this class. We're talking about teams that play fast. They're right up with the O'Gormans and the teams like that can really get it up and down. And they share the ball so well. 16 team assists per game. And then their 3 seniors, Ashlyn Carlo Blunt, Shania Ferguson, Maya Mills, have all made such a difference just with the experience that they bring as seniors. They're going to be really tough out this year.
All right, then you got West Central, but they've got a sharpshooter as well in Casey Jayden.
Yeah, she's one. This is a team we probably didn't expect to make the state tournament this year. She's played so well, and her surrounding cast has played well too. And Joe Caffrey does a great job coaching. But Casey's got 18.3 points per game. Really rebounds, gets a lot of her points off of rebounds too. But she can shoot from the outside too.
And then you got Wagner going against the defending
Oh.
Class A champs just to end the night
Whew,
here in the
get ready.
quarterfinals. Wagner, Sioux Falls Christian. What do you like about this one? Ashlyn Copel, it only makes sense, for her squad to get back to the state tournament this year. And what a way to kick it off, just going against the defending champs.
Nobody means more to their team than Ashlyn Copel. She scores nearly 50% of her team's points. She rebounds 14 a game. She can shoot from 3 as well. But I will say her supporting cast has improved tremendously compared to last year, and that's why they're sitting in such a good spot this year, is because that supporting cast and Braxton Edvid and Hannah Holzbauer, Raven Madricki on the inside, Hayden Knudsen, all these players have really stepped up their game and allowed Ashlyn to do her thing. So I love the mix this year on Wagner, and it's going to be a competitive game going against Leslie Stetzer, who she made her name last year of what she did in the state tournament. She was awesome, and she's continued that this year.
Yeah, she had the game-winning shot, I believe,
Yep,
a
she
year
did.
ago. So yeah, her back, another one that almost averages a double-double every single game. So it's just one of those games where I think a lot of people are going to be completely locked in to see how that game comes to fruition on Thursday night. All right, so the Class B side, first of all, Lyman's that top-seeded team, and I think we got this one right. Lyman has just been tremendous all year. They've had some, games and stuff like that where we've said, we're going to find out a little bit more about Lyman, and it just seems like they always seem to reinstate that they are this good.
Great leadership on this team. They did have the one stumble down the stretch against Bennett County.
Yep.
And of course their other loss came to an out-of-state team, one of the best teams in all of Iowa, regardless of class, so we're going to throw that one away. but really the only time they had trouble was against Bennett County, and they played a little bit sloppy that game, and it was so uncharacteristic of them. So I don't expect them to come in and play like that if they get a chance against one of these high-level teams. They maybe have one weakness is they don't go as deep on their bench as a lot of these teams, but it's Class B basketball, and if you can stay out of foul trouble, they won't need much off their bench because their starters are so good.
Right, and I think you made up a great point there. Just if there's no foul trouble, it's going to be a really good day for Lyman, I think.
I think so too, and it's really cool the last year that Jordan and Max Scott will be able to play together. They've played together the last couple of years now, and Jordan Scott's taken a bigger leap than anybody in the class, I think, averaging almost 18 points per game this year. And of course, Max Scott, you know how we feel about her, one of the best players in the class.
And then a nice compliment to a 3-smart that they have on that team, too.
She can shoot. She can shoot, and with Kenzie Wagner and Brooke Montgomery also in that starting 5, they get it done on a given night. So it really does help their stars when you get contributors all over the court.
And they're going against a Corsica Stickney team, which, say what you will about them, they have some really phenomenal, just pure athletes on that team.
They do. Everybody you look at, going on to track in college, one of the top runners in track, one of the best volleyball players going on to play volleyball next year. A lot of good players. Bradley Bordwick, though, is a third-year starter. She's led the team in scoring the last 3 years. She is one of the best basketball players in Class B, and they showed it. They took out Hardin County in the Hanson Classic this year, previously unbeaten team. So they showed again they can play with these state level type teams. So I really like the overall athleticism in this game, and Corsica Stickney with that athleticism should be able to keep up with Lyman.
All right, and we look forward to that one. That'll be a good start as we get the Class B girls tournament underway. And then you got Ethan Coleman-Egan. I'm actually really looking forward to this one too. Tom Young, his team, had a good, nice win against Dubrook in the Sodak 16. Gets to state, and Ethan's been to state multiple times. They've seemed to always have a very solid program, but they're going to get tested right out the gate with Coleman-Egan, man.
Yeah, you've got a really senior-laden Ethan team that really relies on those 3 seniors who have been so good over the last couple of years. And then you've got a Coleman-Egan team, one of the youngest teams in the entire class, but they have Brindley Landis, one of the best seniors in the class. So Ethan, to me, going against Coleman-Egan has had the best record of anybody in the state. And Ethan has maybe beaten some of the best teams in the state with back-to-back wins against Bennett County and Parkson. This feels more like a Friday night or maybe even a Saturday night game than a Thursday game. 2 real contenders in my mind.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too with just Ethan. The quality wins that they've had this year, you got to think that puts them in a good spot coming into a tournament like this where they're going to see quite a few of these same teams.
Yeah, teams that are 15 wins or better they've beaten this year: Wall, Wagner, Corsica Stickney, 2 times against Sanborn Central Woonsocket, Irene Wakanda, and then Bennett County and Parkston, who were highly ranked at the times that they beat them. What a resume this year for Tom Young and company.
All right. Well, you just mentioned Parkston.
Yep.
They're going to be they're in that the matchup coming right at the evening session for the Class B. And what do you like about Parkston team? They're going to take on a Centerville squad right out the gate. What do you like about that matchup?
We got great guard play all across the court on both sides. I think it's a good matchup for Parkston. Some of the teams that they struggle with is going against a pure post player, which we don't have many of. That's not going to be a huge issue against Centerville, who has good play in the paint, but not that one big post player that they're going to have to worry about. So a good matchup for both of these teams. Parkston gets a lot of rebounding from Kiara Oakley, even though she's not a true post player. She averages over 8 rebounds per game. She's been one of the keys. And then Berkeley Zebart, also another player. Those two, between the two, are over 30 points a game combined. So that's where most of the scoring and the offense and the energy comes from Parkston, is those 2 players.
All right, and then Centerville, Izzy Idy, phenomenal player for them.
Yeah.
They also have Bree Austin, a very good shooter as well. As a team, though, they're another one of those teams that knows how to shoot the 3.
Yeah, when they get hot from beyond the arc, I think it really changes things. To me, Centerville, again, another team that lost early and we kind of forgot about them. To me, they're one of the real contenders in this tournament. And the winner of this game ends up being a real contender in my mind to win this whole thing because they have such great team play and such great energy. These 2 teams are very similar as far as the energy that they bring on the court.
All right, and then the nightcap for the quarters, defending champs in Class B, you've got Bennett County, who's had, a few times this year where they've had some stumbles, but they've been playing a lot better as of late, and they're going against Harding County, who might be one of the more scrappier defenses that we're going to see at the tournament, just because they like to defend the full court.
They do. They do. Harding County will defend the full court. They've made it to state a couple of times, so again, Jay Wahman knows what he's up against at this tier of games that he's going to have to play. And they do. They statistically have one of the best defenses, and you watch them and they have one of the best defenses. They don't have one player either that they really focus on to get all their offense done. It's kind of like transition basketball. Whoever's at the end gets the hoop. And that's going to fit in really nicely with this Bennett County team who plays very similarly. I shouldn't even say one of the most athletic teams. I think they are the most athletic team, maybe in all of girls basketball. But I say that about everybody's athletic. These guys are the real deal. Payson O'Neill averaging over 20 points per game. Reagan O'Neill almost 20 points per game. But Harley Harris, Maddie Wallen, all these players are such great athletes. And what they've done over the last couple of weeks reminded us why they're the state champions.
Absolutely. It's going to be a very interesting Class B tournament this year with just so many different narratives that are at play and the different matchups.
I can see this
like
going
that.
a million different ways. I'm glad I'm not picking them because, and people have asked me, if coaches or fans have asked me, who do you think's going to win? I have no idea this year. No idea, especially in Class B.
Yeah, and we're not making any projections, any predictions on this year's show. I think for you and I, Jan, we're really excited to just kind of sit back and watch how all 3 of these things play out. There's obviously things we're going to look for along the way. But man, at the end of the day, it's a fabulous week for girls basketball in South Dakota, and I hope everybody goes out and supports all these kids.
Yeah, especially these seniors who are going for their last dance. Ashlyn Carlo Blunt and Ashlyn Copel are 2 of the best the state has seen in a long time. So go enjoy them and the rest of these seniors who have had a tremendous career.
All right. And again, next week we're going to talk about the 3 boys tournaments. We'll do a quick recap as well as to what we liked out of the 3 state tournaments on the girls' side as well. Fun week, Jandy. Get your seatbelt on, get locked in.
Get my popcorn ready. Let's go.
All right. Well, we'll be back next week. He's Jason Ander. I'm Nate Weck. Another week of Game Time here on SDPB.